Oh, hi there, my beautiful co-host Karine Mooney, all the way from Arizona.
Good morning.
Uh, a
Good evening.
beautiful morning.
Good afternoon.
Good evening, good afternoon, and to wherever you are on the globe, maybe good night, good afternoon, good day, right?
hmm
So, everybody, welcome. And today we have Wednesday, February 26th in US and Europe, and Thursday, February 27th, our future in Australia, right?
hmm
You are watching the Cosmic Sis-Stars show with host Karina and Ann, and today we will talk about personal responsibility and cosmic creation, how our choices shape the universe and our reality,
Yeah.
right? That is quite an intriguing
Oh, yes.
uh, topic. And our last show on Cosmic Guardians was last Wednesday, February 19th. And we were talking about era of evolution, navigating the times of transformation, which is a big topic that also, right?
hmm
And you can connect with us, find upcoming shows, past episodes, read articles, connect with Kareem, connect with me, read intriguing stuff, right? At angelplaceonearth.com/cosmic guardians and angelplaceonearth.com/upcoming dash past. And you can find Kareen at liquidenergyhealing.com. How about that? And I also want to mention because we have promoted for you. You had some workshops, the four agreements, and you were planning to have a workshop, a play date for committed relationships and committed couples, right?
hmm
On March 2nd, and that's not going to come. You're going to push it forward a little bit
Yes.
for certain reasons, right? But we're going to come back on that topic, and that's wonderful. So, who wants to start to dive into today's topic?
I think this may be one of the times when we were going, okay, you can talk, you're going to talk, because it is so vast and so beautiful. And why don't you get us started?
Absolutely. And it's kind of interesting because, like everybody's saying all the time, now we're saying the same thing. We are the creators of our universe, our reality, on
hmm
our end, right? But we're also co-creators, right? So my personal responsibility for how I create and what I say, I pay attention, coming back to the four agreements, being impeccable with my word,
hmm
meaning that I can say almost everything, but I pay attention to what I'm stating, because if I'm going to state things like, well, I can't do that, I'm not worthy of that, or, things of that nature, that means that I'm already putting the framework up for myself. And my reality is not going to provide me with a lot of opportunities because I put the tense there, right? Because
hmm
I can't do it. And assumptions and all of those other things we talked about, right? But you know, we are as human beings living in this experience, we have a few things that are really very powerful for us. First of all, we have the power of choice. And that also means we have the power of our response to things that are coming to us, right?
hmm
So if I state that I feel confused, I don't know, it can be valid for a period of time, but if I'm continuously doing that and feel fear, which is basically next week, bringing it into this week too, that also means that I'm fearful of progressing, so I'm stopping myself, right? Most of
Correct.
the time, we don't realize that we are putting up a whole bunch of road bumps and frames and fences and you name it for ourselves because we are being taught. So this journey growing yourself spiritually means that we need to question those things. Doesn't mean that we take silly risks like, oh, today I feel for going and I'm choosing to have a bungee jump if I'm fearful of that, right? So maybe that's not the smartest. Or in my case, should I listen to my intuition, not going with a bicycle, the electric one, but I did, and I broke my leg. So sometimes we are getting the answers in an instant, to be honest,
Mhm.
because we can change so many things, and we also have free will. So coming along on this journey, um, to make the choices that we really want to see. Um, we can make choices for ourselves, and that is the only thing we can do, right?
Mhm.
As a human being, many times maybe we want to have control over things. We want to know, if I make this choice, what's that going to lead to? What's the consequence of that? And there's always, I don't believe in karma as um, reward and punishment, but there's always a cause and consequence, right?
Correct.
That's basically with our choices. So there are choices and there are consequences. And also to know that if we made a choice in the past, we tried it out, it didn't function very well, it didn't lead us to where we want to be, we have the power to make new choices, right?
Yes. Yes.
In in this reality, it means that things, no, I will rephrase that. Certain things can be manifested directly in an instant, right here and now. Other things may be like a process, it takes a little bit of time, but that's fine too. We can always, 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 always make new choices.
Mhm.
And when things are not in our hands, how do I respond to that? What am I doing with what I'm presented with? Because we are also co creators. So if I encounter something that I don't like what I see here, maybe that is a sign also for me to question, am I choosing what feels most in alignment with myself, or am I putting myself in for struggling to reach my goal? Does that make sense?
Mhm. It does. Um, and understanding that we are not just a leaf being tossed around. We have the choice to make these decisions. Interestingly enough, indigenous people all over the world have lived by this because they know that they are connected to something greater. And the word greater is not really the best word. They're connected to something that is of greatness, of greatness, because we are part of that greatness. In meditation, every Tuesday night, when I take my group into the oneness, into the void, into the field, science now calls this the field. One of the things that is always stressed is you are part of the whole. You may be a cell in the whole body, but you are important because the role that you play to help that come to fruition would be lacking if you weren't there. So understanding that when you move into the field where creativity is, healing can literally happen. Joe Braden has Joe
Greg.
Dispenza. I'm getting my guys mixed up. Has has now scientific equipment can now measure these things that the ancient indigenous all knew. I mean, in Hawaii, Ho'oponopono was created to keep the harmony because they knew if the human beings, their consciousness was not in balance, nature would be out of balance. And it is so beautiful to understand that when we tap into that divine consciousness, that is where our emotions, our thoughts, and our feelings can influence what we are creating in our small little world.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
And to connect with that part, you go within, right?
Yes, yes. And be still, be silent. And one of the things that I have, you learn things, you incorporate them, and then they're not at the front of your thought pattern until you have a reason to bring them back up. And one of the things is that very ancient writings, the Emerald tablets, and other very ancient writings have said that as humans, we use three different things to navigate our world: our thought, our feelings, and the body, which is emotion.
Yeah,
And you may have the thought and the feelings together, but the feelings and the emotions are out of whack, or maybe vice versa, and everything else. It is when you are able to bring yourself into a whole, that is when you really see how you affect the things around you as far as your creativity.
exactly. Plus something else. I think we touched on this before, but it's worth mentioning that when we receive guidance, it's a pure and true guidance when it's always bringing you a sense of love and expansion, and you
Yes,
are on track of things.
yes,
Because we can even receive things from the world that are not really um, that pure loving guidance, that may actually bring us into something else, and included everything we have been taught, right? So
exactly.
in order for us to understand where we want to go and making our choices for the future, it has to be when you feel the lightness of this guidance. It's not a struggle. It's not wearing you down. It's not making you worry, right? That's when you
Exa-
are on track.
exactly. And when I am working with people and they're having a Reiki session, uh, they're going to emote a lot of emotions. However, even if they cry through the session or feel something that they're letting go of, when they say after we're done, but I felt at peace. When we receive things that give us peace and creativity and joy, these are coming from a higher portion of ourself. They're not coming from the, oh well, I've got to get back at that person, or I've got to uh, right this wrong, and so forth. And it does change our perception.
It does, doesn't it? How nice is this? Is we can always make a chain out of what we have been talking about before, right? Because everything
Yes.
is connected in that sense.
And one of the questions that I kind of am amused at is, um, people will come to me and they're aspiring to improve themselves, and they will say, well, I want to be just like you. And I go, well, you're uniquely you, number one. But number two, no person anywhere could have the exact same experiences I had, the exact same teachers I had, the exact response to a teaching that
No,
make me uniquely me. And I can give you information to help you form who you are uniquely.
mm,
But it's interesting how our connection with higher consciousness allows us to be perceptive and to be able to discern whether the information that is coming through us is bringing joy and peace and togetherness, unity.
Exactly. And I think many times people are stating, I would like to be like you, for instance, because they want what you have, but they have their own unique way of creating that for themselves.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
that is where someone like you can help people to find themselves. Who am I, for instance, right?
Right.
Um, who who is my unique version of myself, me, if I would go, because this world, and we said this so many times before, is putting us in boxes, and you're supposed to follow things. And I'm going to stick my nose out a little bit here again, like I do sometimes, when it comes to advice or um, even from, the spiritual realm sometimes that you have to do it this way because or that it's not going to be conducive in because you are going to do it the wrong way. The world is saying this is what that's going to backfire or whatever it is, right?
Hmm.
That's fear based.
Yes.
That is not coming from love. So that is not how we do actually find the truth within. It's not like we have a million truths, but the way to find it and to connect with it is actually to go within and listen to you. Who are you? Who are you really? If you peel away all of that layers of the onion to find yourself, right?
Very, very much so. And it's a continuous process. And and I said I wasn't going to say this ever again because the universe does give us opportunity to practice what we're going to be talking about, but it is really
Oh my
true.
goodness, it is true.
It is so true. Because last night in meditation, last week, I had told one of my students that we would bring up a method to be able to navigate in our circumstances. And as I was talking about this, actually, I don't talk. It's channeled when I am teaching. And I said, ironically, we are doing this very same topic tomorrow on how what we do influences not only the people around us, but the world, the
Yeah.
thought patterns in the world. And I always love to refer back to the time when the millennium was going to change. And it was the first time in the history of the world that probably everybody, even in remote villages, had connection to the internet or understood a little bit about it. It wasn't, I mean, we are so vastly connected. So the Heart Math Institute in California had set up some monitoring, and they had created this machine that would feel the conscious vibration. And they were testing to see if this was a reality. And so they put these monitors up all over the world. So as the year changed, they would be able to see scientifically if the conscious thought of humans had any influence over what was happening. It does. Just 3 minutes before the new year hit, these things would start vibrating at such high frequency, and this country and this country and this, and it did it all around the world. So they now had scientific proof that what we think
Yeah.
and what we emote out in emotion does have an effect on things. And then, surprisingly enough, before 9/11, the monitors started going off again, and they checked. There were no earthquakes. There was no reason for these things to be doing it. And somehow, the consciousness of the entire world was feeling what was being prepared to happen. And then 2 days later, 9/11 happened. And then the monitors were quiet after that. So what we think and how we feel about it, are we thinking healing thoughts? Are we thinking inspirational thoughts? Are we thinking and feeling fear or doubt?
Yeah.
We do make a change.
We do. And it's interesting you talk about that, because right before we came live here, we talked about thought forms, and we talked about this show, of course, and everything. Thought forms, I can't say it, thought forms are interesting because they can become entities by themselves if
They
they
can.
are fed enough energy, and they become entities. They don't have a soul, but they can become strong entities, and they have a lot of power. So therefore, personal responsibility, what am I sending out there? What am I adding to? Because even if we think of a thought form as an entity, that can come to you and try to um, make you think that thing, right? Because you have adapted to it. So that's right there. There's a choice. Do
Yes.
I feel in alignment with this? What's going to happen if I resist it, right? Is it
Yes.
really what I stand for? We have so many choices we can make
Yes.
instead of just adapting to things because it's considered normal or what we should be. That's
Or
how we can take
convenient.
responsibility.
Yes.
Yes,
And
convenient. Yes,
these thought forms are ravenous, and the only way that they can feed is to have the negativity.
yeah,
And we see this in places where everything is peaceful, and all of a sudden there's an uproar, because at that particular time the people around it were having these thoughts, and it had to be fed. So it had to create the situation to be fed. And
yeah,
people do this, especially narcissists. They live off of the energy that you emote when you are frustrated or are feeling doubt. That's why they create the situation so they can feed, and that's what keeps them alive.
yeah,
And our thoughts, as I said, when you're around children or animals, we know about adults. That they're thrown into this too, but children and animals rely so much on the emotions that are emoted and the vibrations. Plants, for goodness sakes, if you play hard rock around plants, they will shrivel and die. If you play harmonious music, they will thrive. And it's interesting because, again, I go back to the indigenous populations that have survived using their knowledge that this is real. And scientists come out, so, oh, I'm so proud, I just wrote a book on how we affect plants. And I'm going, okay, congratulations to you. uh, but it is true. We have that kind of dramatic influence. And I remember when we had that hurricane that came through,
Yeah.
And they had just had one horrible hurricane and another one was getting ready to hit. And people literally reached out to means beyond the norm and said, please, everybody, envision that this doesn't hit us. Pray about it. Do whatever mode that you have to connect with that energy field. And that turned into, I think it came through at a 3 instead of the 5 that they were expecting. So it works, people. It works. And the
Yeah,
whole world saw it. And then we forget it.
exactly. And I think that we are used to um worshiping things outside of ourselves.
Exactly.
Someone knows better. Someone is higher up. Someone has a better connection spiritually
Correct.
or whatever it is, right?
Yes.
Religions, governments, everything, society. So we are supposed to worship and obey certain things,
Hmm.
but we are powerful within ourselves. We are more powerful and not less than anything else, to be
No.
honest. No.
And the only way that you're going to realize that is you're going to have to, again, go back to, did we say this before? Self love.
I think
And
we did say that a few times.
yeah, I
Yes.
think we spoke about that before. But you never really know in life. You get very few opportunities to actually see how you might have influenced somebody.
Yeah.
And um, this case comes to mind. I was helping out at the school where they were working with children with challenges, and my whole time there, I think I spent maybe 2 hours once or twice a week, and I was assigned to work with this young lady that had cerebral palsy, and basically her job was to get the right colored beads in the right places. Now, the whole time we worked, she never spoke. So I didn't know if she could speak or she was just partially verbal and or that she was just, happy to be with me and didn't say anything. But she always just had this big smile on her face. And I was there for probably about 6 months. Left, got into another career, and I had become a nail tech. Now, this is several years after I had worked at the school. This first lady that sat in my chair looked at me. She was an older woman, and she said, I know who you are. And I'm okay. That's not usually the opening that you get when you're working with a stranger for the first time. And she said, you are the one that worked with my granddaughter. And I thought, how did the granddaughter convey that to the to her family or to the teachers? How would they know? How did all of this happen? I mean, it's an impossibility that information would get whirled around, that she would be able to identify me 2 years later. And it was almost as if the universe was saying, I am preparing you to realize that when you speak, you can inspire. And it was long
Yes.
before I got into this stuff I do. So, it's, but taking the time to be in the moment and hearing those words instead of, as we do, to be
Yeah.
humble. That's not me. Oh yeah, and everything else. I I took them to heart, and I was grateful that I heard the words.
That's a fantastic story. And you know what? A lot of people say that, well, I'm just one person, I can't make a change. But we can. That's not true. We are so extremely powerful. It
Exactly.
starts with each and every one of us making the choices that are based, not fear based, love based, that are in alignment with our uniqueness. Someone else is going to make a choice that's going to be coming from love also, but being in alignment with them. And we are progressing.
Yes. And the progression is starting with loving yourself enough to eliminate the negativity that you have absorbed through your lifetime, enhancing your tools with the beautiful four agreements. They come in so handy, and they'll smack you on the behind if you're not careful, because they love to keep teaching all the things that help you refine that beautiful gem that you are. So on that rare occasion, you may touch another soul.
Yeah.
And it's not in doing it for reward, and well, and that one's, and that one's going to talk about it and everything else. It is just spreading it so others will be able to bring it into their own life.
Yeah, and that's beautiful, We can each and every one start with self-work, self-love, um, questioning things, right? So this thing that I'm told, is it aligning with me? Is it an opinion? Is it something that I can that feels like I can take to myself as a value? Questions of that nature. Because I
Hmm.
think it's so really important, and each and every one counts. It also brings one to be, when we're expanding ourselves, because if we are practicing self-love and connecting with ourselves, we expand. And it's getting easier along the journey, because we are, even if we are growing our sensitivities, I mean, psychic abilities and all of that stuff that comes along with this, they are gifts. But I always say that someone growing only their gifts doesn't necessarily mean that they are in alignment with themselves, because it goes hand in hand, the
Yes.
spiritual way of seeing things and developing your gifts. But it's also something that if you choose to develop one of them, like your psychic abilities, doesn't mean that you have grown yourself, right?
Yes.
So what kind of a psychic or a channel or whatever it is you're going to be, because you are, it's filtered from you, right?
I love the saying, "Physician, heal thyself." Unfortunately, sometimes people may have overcome one obstacle in their life, and now they think they're authority on all obstacles in life. And to be able to understand that every one of us, no matter whether you're teaching in front of a million people, or you're sitting, just doing your own writing or something, we have that ability to influence. But until we go into our shadows, go into those thought forms that are hanging around wanting to be fed, if we do not address them in ourself, then there is no way that we should be trying to address them in somebody else's life.
Exactly. Very good point. Because it always starts with self.
Yeah.
And we are not taught that. We are taught differently, specifically as women, right? We are to be the glue in the family, in relationships, taking care, the caregivers.
Correct.
And that is fine. And we are that too, right? But
Mhm.
also, finding ourselves as well. Because if you find yourself, you have much more to give. Isn't that true?
It is, I mean, if you're making a pie and you leave out the main ingredient, which is you, it isn't going to taste the same.
No, it's
So
not.
we have to. An expression that I like to use is, you must, you know, you cannot pour tea from an empty teapot. If you
Exactly.
don't take the time to make the tea, working on yourself, then you have nothing to be able to share with anyone. And it's interesting, again, when we're talking about not knowing exactly what part we play in this tapestry called life. And there was a movie that was made by M. Night, and I'm going to spell his name because I don't want to mispronounce it. Shyamian. A beautiful director, and it's called Lady in the Water. And it is all about this beautiful light form in the form of a woman comes, and she must find a certain person that is destined to write this book that even after he dies will be read by a young man that is going to be basically the essence of saving the world. And
Yeah,
he didn't know that he was writing this book or it would have this kind of influence, but it was necessary for her to get this message to him. Write the book because it's going to be important. And sometimes we have that inspiration that we need to keep going because there's someone that we need to touch. And sometimes we don't get that message and we just fall into it. But the whole time, if we're preparing ourselves to be loving, full of generosity, full of the main ingredient, gratitude, then we may know that we influence this person's life, and then times we may not know.
exactly. And by being uh, the best currently version of ourselves that we can be, we are doing a great job. And we talked about this in the four agreements, right? Because
Mhm.
my good, the best I could be one day may differ, but not beating ourselves up, but knowing that it's a process and being there, not giving up on oneself, right?
Yes,
Because never ever is there a quick fix to things. It's a process, and you are diving deeper for each and every time when you do this, when you realize things, when it's kind of, aha, I get it, right? But that's not the end of it. There's going to be a million more aha moments, right?
yes, and they come uh, stronger and more potent. However, because you are stronger and more able to deal with these things, you're able to deal with all of the gifts that are given to you to help mold you into that person.
Exactly. And it takes courage, um, because it's not it taking personal responsibility also means that maybe you're not obeying to everything you're being told, right? You question things, you pick and choose, and you say, okay, I'm going to be. It's not about having a bad egoistic attitude. It's about coming from the place of love and seeing things in a more truthful way. I mean, what they really are without all of these um, decorations that are being put on them, right? If that makes sense. I
Yes,
say that in a metaphorical sense because something can look very good at the surface. When you dig into it, maybe you see that maybe that's not really where I want to go, right? That's not
correct.
judgment, that is perception. It's choice. It's being there, taking your responsibility for things.
And being able to do it without seeking reward,
Exactly.
just being in the moment and enjoying the moment. And when we are in the present moment, that is when we are really connected to the field. We are
Yes.
really connected to our, as people say, the higher self. But I'm going to refer to that as our divine consciousness, that web that is around us all that we want to tap into. And interestingly enough, using the word web, that also appears in the emerald tablets. It appears in um, sacred geometry on how, after we make our connections and our energy emotes out, it
Yeah.
becomes like a web, because then we touch the other person. And I use that visualization a lot when I'm starting the meditation, because as we become now consciously our light being instead of our physical body, and we move above our bodies, and we notice the other light beings that are around us and around the world, and we form this silver thread between. And then we have this web that we put over the entire world, where love will go down to the earth and go beyond. And when you understand that, by connecting to that field, that is where all
Yeah.
things are possible.
Yeah, all things are possible. And but you need to expand yourself out of this reality that we think that we see,
Mhm.
outside from the veil, if that makes sense, outside from what we think we see. Because another thing is to make conscious choices and to be aware also means that you cannot really go only with what you think you know. You need to expand. You need to getting beyond that.
Yes. And when you do choose to go beyond, and you choose to connect to the amazing consciousness that is all creation, that is when you find out that you are limitless.
Yes.
There are only possibilities, and possibilities that you could not even consider because of our background, society, culture, and things of that nature. And I am watching so many wonderful uh, bits of information about these young people that are recreating this beautiful world. They are finding ways to bring healthy water in very simply by using the simple things that they have, or electricity, or even finding that the ancient herbs that their ancestors used literally eliminate cancer. And I just keep praying that their knowledge and their creativity will not be gobbled up by mainstream. And but it's happening. And you can't keep the light out. It's going to find a way to shine.
Exactly. And the beautiful thing is, just as we feed thought forms that are of the negative kind, right? We can feed thought forms that are on the positive end and real things like unconditional love and
Yes,
spreading that around. So that's basically also what happened when you talked about the hurricane, right?
correct,
Because
correct.
if you focus enough, maybe we are not able to stop something all the time, right? But we can change it. And that's the purpose of it. Specifically water. Coming back to Masaru Emoto.
Water, yes, yes, and it is beautiful that science has caught up to being able to give this information to people who have grown up where if it's not scientific, it didn't happen. It's like if a tree falls in the forest, is there a sound? And some people need to have that concrete, oh, well, this test shows this. And so therefore it must be real. And, but getting to the point where you take responsibility for you and you start creating the most peaceful, integrated, conscious human being, then you're going to be able to influence. I don't want to use that word. You're going to be able to inspire others just by being around. And
Yeah.
this is something
How
we can
good is
all
that?
aspire to. Yes. Yes.
How good is that? That's beautiful. It's perfect. And because we have a personal responsibility, but how does that come into the collective responsibility? How do those things come together?
How do they not come together?
Good questions. Because by being you, you add, and that's why it's important to be your best version, to do the best you can, not punishing yourself for anything, but just being who you are, uh, the best version that you currently can, right?
Because I
And
made,
that's
yeah,
how, yeah, that's how you add to the collective.
right. I may just be a lonely heart cell, one little teeny itty bitty heart cell in a petri dish. But if you take me out of the whole heart, something's going to be missing. If you take the heart out of the whole being, it's not going to function. So in our body, we have trillions and trillions and trillions of cells that some of them are going to make a pancreas, some of them are going to make a heart, some of them are going to make an eyeball. If they weren't there, there would be a deficiency. So whatever cell you are in the cosmic body, you are important. And being the best you can be and the healthiest you can be, then you're going to contribute to the health of the whole, which is the whole collective. So we cannot be separate from. We've been told we're separate from, but every thought we have affects vibratory. It's like we're walking around thinking, oh, well, I've got a bad day and everything else. Well, these negative vibrations are hitting the drum and sending that vibration into everyone in the world. And the expression, when a butterfly flaps its wings in Japan, there's a hurricane in Hawaii.
Oh, yeah. That is something to think about. And because we are being taught so many things, right? So we feel safe and secure staying in that little bubble or box or whatever one wants to call it, right?
That's right.
But most people actually have a desire to expand. They have a desire to change things, to see something better, to see different things. That's coming from their true self, right?
Yes.
But then it comes to, but that's next week, but I'm stating it anyway. Then the fear kicks in. I know what I have and where I am, but I know what I would love to be. But do I dare to take the steps to go there? Or if I'm going to dig within myself, what am I going to find? And I think that
Wow.
something else to mention, in order for us to expand and grow, yeah, we need to see our shadows. But there's a difference in seeing your shadows and grabbing them I mean the bull by the horns, right? And
Correct.
dealing with them and taking care of them and having that process, because that's also a process, than to get stuck in the loop of not being able to leave that part of you, because that will keep you in the loop of being in the past,
Hmm.
not being able to progress.
It's interesting because it makes me remember a show on Star Trek where when Captain Kirk came back down, they didn't realize that he had been split in two, and his negative energy became an entity, and his positive energy also became an entity. So there were two Captain Kirks, and they saw them interacting with different people in there, and one would be that captain that they knew, and then the other was mean and nasty or gnarly and everything else. Well, when they finally figured out that there had been that split, by then they came to realize that the Captain Kirk that had all of the positive attributes and kind, he could not make decisions that were critical because he didn't have that part of him that had that kind of strength. And then as the same, the one that was going around with all the negativity, he had no way of understanding compassion. So everything was just blunt force. So our shadows give us an opportunity to really understand that all of the facets of us are important for us to have, that yin and that yang, that night and the day. So embracing them and not allowing that to be the persona that people see, but utilizing maybe what that shadow needs to teach us about being strong, self-reliant, so forth and so on. I don't know what your shadows are or what they're teaching you, but if you integrate them and realize that this is what really makes you is having that ability to be that duality and finding the
Yeah,
best of the best.
exactly. Because a lot of the spiritual arena is about, and I was there too years ago. I didn't want to acknowledge anything that was considered negative or, on the dark side or whatever. But I was guided actually. It kind of came to me all the time, and I was in resistance. That's so funny. And I said, I'm not going to do that. And I called it working on the other side of the street. I'm not touching those things. But
Yep.
you can't actually progress if you don't acknowledge, because our world contains both those polarities, and we need
Yeah.
to see them, because if
Yes.
we don't understand them, we cannot make choices.
Yes. When I became a Reiki master teacher, I wrote a poem, and one of the things that I had said was that I was willing and able to accept parts of myself that, if you just isolated them, would have a negative connotation. Oh, well, that's, you know, you're too stubborn, you're too impatient, you're too this, you're too that, whatever it is. Now I'm using emotions, but um, if I were to eliminate those attributes from myself, I wouldn't be useful to anyone. I wouldn't.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be able to be self-reliant. I wouldn't be able to be creative. I wouldn't be able to have the strength to do what I need to do. So
but
just
here, sorry, go ahead.
no,
Sorry,
no.
I get I
That the
get
thought
so
just hit.
eager. But here's the thing also in this world, and we have been taught this. So we make connections with certain things, those things are considered negative, those things are considered positive, without really seeing, because I'd love to state that I'm stubborn, and this is why I am stubborn. But
Thank goodness.
stubbornness maybe sounds for some people something very, very negative, but it's all about how I use it. I'm not going to be stubborn when I see that path over there is not going to lead me to where I want to be. I'm not going to be stubborn, but I'm going to be stubborn when it comes to, for instance, when I broke my leg. I'm going to heal this. I'm going to do it. It's going to
That's
come.
right.
And I did. So,
Absolutely.
everything is about how we use things. And I love that I know you love to say tenacious because that sounds a little bit better, right?
I think because I was called stubborn so much in my life, when I found a more genteel word, I accepted that. But
Yeah.
uh,
I heard a statement someone said, a family member, about me. They said, it's no use telling you anything because you're going to do whatever you want anyway. And I said, yes, exactly. You got it right. I can hear your advice, but it's
yeah,
my decision,
and
right?
that's the key. Uh, we are open to people's interpretation, but we always say that the decision will be ours.
Exactly.
And because to just comply, and I think we're gonna be doing something on just complying, and it just to make do, just to survive, and that's not really helping you or helping anyone when you either are just stubbornly saying, I'm not going to do that, I won't even listen to you, but put it into
Exactly.
a way where, well, let's throw it on the table and see what works. And maybe one sentence out of here and one sentence out. And I do this with books. I've saved a lot of money this way. I go into bookstores and something will catch my eye. And so I'll muscle test it. And I'll say, do I need to have this whole book for the information in it? Or is there just maybe one phrase or one sentence or something? And it will tell me whether to buy the whole book or to realize that I can get that information from another source. And when I go into the bookstore and people just kind of roll their eyes because I stand there and I put the book on my chest and my body will be doing like this. Nope, put it back on the shelf. Yep. But this
But
is where, yeah,
because you are listening to yourself, you follow
yes,
your guidance, and I think some other things that are challenging people sometimes, that they receive guidance and they can feel that something, it's genuine, it's not coming from any thought form or anything, it's a genuine thing, but they don't dare to trust it.
yes, because they don't trust themselves.
Exactly. So my take on that is that when you develop your self-love, and in that process you also get to know yourself. Who am
Exactly.
I really? And we are like everything else because we are also energy, even if we look solid. We are in continuous growing and moving and transitioning and transforming, you
Oh
name it,
man,
right?
I can
So
tell
there are
that.
always new versions of ourselves coming out. But that's
Yes.
beautiful. But it's you get to know the very core of you, and that's where you start to trust it. Because when you don't love yourself enough or you don't trust yourself, you are listening to all these opinions that are coming your way.
Hmm.
And opinions are someone's perception of what you should do. And usually people do that with love. They are stating things and telling you things,
Yes,
but they come from their angle. So it doesn't mean it's going to be in alignment with you, who you are.
that's correct. That's correct. And being able to trust yourself, you start falling into this is something that I am picking up by knowing it. This is not a belief system, because those two are as vast as night and day. A belief is usually somebody else's opinion that is common knowledge, and so everybody says, well, this is how that this is real because this is what these people have said.
Yeah.
But when your gut gives you information, it comes from, you know, that this is for you and this is not for you. And trusting, being able to trust yourself is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, interestingly enough, beliefs are very often connected to be thought forms in one way or another. That's interesting, something
Very much so,
to
yeah.
remember. Yeah, they are. And so, do I want to adapt myself to those things, or do I want to find what I really need to do, where I need to go, whatever I want, right? Because um, it can feel really tricky navigating those things, right?
And that's where having built up a trust in yourself gives you courage to say, this is something that I want to pursue, or this is something that I do not want to pursue, irregardless of what is being said to you. Popular opinion, especially people close to you.
Yeah.
And, well, that's not like you. And I'll go, yay, that means I'm making a change.
Yes, exactly. And I'm going to make everybody laugh a little bit, including you now, because I'm kind of very straightforward. I'm easygoing. I'm not complicated at all. So someone says something to me and I say, I hear you. Either I would say yes, or I say no.
Yep.
It's very uncomplicated, right?
And yes, and there's is where we start setting boundaries, and we start realizing that you do not have to be the people pleaser all the time. You do not have to be always, well, I'll make it work. I can do that. And simply say, uh, not at this time, or uh, I'll think about it. But just being that yes person all the time and complying to other people's wishes, you don't have time then to start developing who you are.
Exactly. You are getting caught in the worldly web, not the
Exactly.
higher levels of the web, right?
Yes.
Yes. One way of expressing it. Oh my goodness. This is interesting, isn't it?
Yes. Well, when you stop and think of it, everything that we've said today has in some way affected the higher consciousness. And these words are going to find a way to make something, uh, allow for something to be created, or
Yeah.
maybe allow for somebody to go, aha, I can do this. And we may never know. We may never see the results of the seeds that have been planted. But it's like Johnny Appleseed. The legend is that he had all these different varieties of apples, and everywhere he went, he always, planted some. And that is why
Yeah.
we have so many different varieties of apples, which is, I don't know if it's true. He could be a real person, and so forth and so on. But the point is that he consciously made an effort to bring something to this living in this world. And if
Exactly.
we consciously realize all of our thoughts that may or may not become actions, but the
Exactly.
thoughts are going to influence the whole.
Being aware of our intention behind. So do I stand behind these thoughts, or is it something that I want to release so I can move
Yes.
forward? Because we can't actually move forward easily if we are carrying a lot of baggage.
Nope.
No.
And it's a very difficult thing to um, always feel the need to go back and go through it. I have an interesting situation where someone, for some reason, had kept every hurtful thing that had ever been said about her, and now she's cleaning, and she'll go and she'll find. And I said, "Why would you have written down that in the first place?" And there
Yeah.
again, at that time, that was where she was directed. Um, and I, on the other hand, anytime I find something that's uplifting, that's when I have paper scattered everywhere. Uh, it just depends on where you are in your evolution. Evolution, didn't we talk about that?
Yeah, we
Uh,
did last week.
and we are constantly evolving. We are constantly gathering bits of information and see if they fit in our creation. And if they do, we bring them in. And if they don't, then we let them stay. So how are you ever going to become that polished, unique gem, that cell in the creation that is going to be able to contribute to its highest extent if you're not willing to enhance it and to keep utilizing it?
Yeah, that's beautiful. And I want to say something else to people also. So when we are becoming aware, paying attention to things, and even after, when we have a great awareness, we kind of can continue it. It's a good thing. You don't need to write novels. But
No.
when things happen to you, when you wake up in the morning and you have a knowing, or you dreamt something very, very special, or you see things like that you feel that's some sort of guidance from you, things that are happening, your development, write it in a notebook. Keep that. Good things.
Yes.
Because when you go back after a year or a couple of years or a few months and you see, it's going to make more sense to you. You're going to grasp it. You're going to understand it.
That's interesting because when I became aware of my journey was more than just mother, wife, daughter, so on and so forth. I found myself just constantly writing on things. I'd pull off the side of the road and write, and I couldn't find anything, so I was writing on a paper towel or a napkin. And uh, these things have been put in notebooks, and I have boxes of these notebooks. And every now and then I will go back and I'll read them. Now, these are from as far back as 1989. And I'll look at this and I'll go, whoa, that's pretty profound. I need to meet this person, you know. But this was a part of my growing,
Yeah,
and it's amazing that when you open that channel of communication with the void, it is so happy to be your companion, and it'll give you a little nudge here, a little nudge there. And being human and having a free will, I can say, oh yeah, part of it. And that's what makes us unique as human beings, is having the ability to embrace it or replace it.
exactly. That is. Fantastic. So we have our power in our response, our ability to choose, um, our curiosity to figure out more, to find
Yeah,
out more, to expand. It is beautiful indeed, isn't it?
it is. I am so amazed as I move through my situation, and especially when I'm given opportunities to revisit something that I thought, oh, I've pretty much got a handle on that. And universe says, well, yeah, but try this version of it. And
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there are always different versions and different ways of doing things, and that's perfect because we are all unique. We all have our own unique way of
yes,
doing things. Yes.
but
So, my
that
beautiful, yeah,
well,
go ahead.
one last thing, that gives us the opportunity to see a different perspection, different perspective of that.
Exactly. See it from a helicopter perspective, seeing a bigger picture, seeing different angles. That
That's
is
right.
exciting too, isn't it?
Yes.
So, thank you, my beautiful co-host. Is there anything we want to add today?
Well, always, but not at this time.
Okay, but I can actually add something. You are having open heart meditations
every
every
every Tuesday.
Tuesday, I think. Yeah, in Mesa, Arizona. So if you are in that area, I promise you don't want to miss this. It's at Kareen's place. You can find her at LQ Energy. No, sorry, I'm saying the wrong thing. You find her at lqenergyhealing.com. You can call her at 480-250-1815, or you can email Karina at lqenergy@yahoo.com, right? And there's a wonderful energy, and she's guiding you to open up and go into the void, right?
Into your self-awareness.
Yes,
Yes.
that's beautiful. So, anyway, you have been watching Cosmic Sisters with Corinne and Anne, and we have been talking about personal responsibility and cosmic creation, how our choices shape the universe, and how we have our personal responsibility. You can find all past episodes at angelplaceonearth.com/upcoming dash past. Our next upcoming show here on Cosmic Guardians is going to be next week, and I'm so excited for this. We are going to talk about next week on Wednesday, February 26th in the US and Europe, and Thursday, February 27th in Australia. So we talk about when you go into fear, you revert back into the familiar. That's an intriguing topic. So how are the forces and the energies working for us in that way, right? What do we do? What do we usually do? How do we tend to try to resist or escape or, not moving forward? So you can connect with us, find upcoming shows, past episodes, read articles, and much more at angelplaceonearth.com/cosmic guardians. And I say, love, light, peace, and joy to all of you. What do you say?
Love, light, peace, and laughter.
That's that's brilliant. That's important. Be having fun. That's
Yes,
so important. It has to be fun always.
we sometimes forget that.
Yeah, we do. Bye.
Bye bye.